Welcome to Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready, we're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites, welcome to 127. I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis.
And fellas, it is episode 127, which is a
Hoopajoob!
Hoopajoob episode.
That's
Love
right.
the Hoopajoob episodes.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. You don't have to touch the gain on that. We won't do Hoopajoob like that again.
That's right. Yeah, we're
we went a little into the red there for a second.
That's all right. When we shout, we don't. But we don't do that. We are usually men of sophistication. We don't need to raise our voices because our voices carry the weight on their own.
Yes.
Except we drop the occasional F-bomb.
Well,
which is very rare.
We've done it twice. I got bleeped out. You didn't, but that's okay.
Yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I haven't done post-production on that episode yet.
Oh, well, that's true.
So he may end up
I think
as
we're
a,
okay.
as a beep or a noise.
We've gone along. We could do this.
Well, that one was a very particular case.
And you laid out that you were going to do that, so it's...
Do you want me to leave it in?
Please.
I'm okay with it.
Please leave it in.
Because
yes.
that's one that...
Mine was a
it fits
slip of
the
the tongue. It wasn't supposed to happen.
Right, mine was a very deliberate description of an event that is very difficult to understand. So
Yes, it is definitely a how to comprehend something monstrous. So,
yeah.
All right, well then it will be left in, and
By this time, you've already heard it.
Yeah.
And you know that
Yeah.
it has been left in.
Yes. So Otterites, as a peek behind the curtain. No, we do not do a ton of post production on the episodes. There's not a lot of editing. We tag them with the intro and the outro and put them on the service, and we run with it.
Yeah,
That's
well,
right.
we like to think that whatever we say is interesting enough to keep.
Well, you know,
At least
other than a very rare fatal slip of some bit of information or words that we don't want on there,
Yeah.
which is very rare.
Very rare.
There's no need.
Yeah,
There's no need.
we're that damn good.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Wonderful.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so now that I can't get my head out the door here at Studio F, so yes, Otterites, again, we're just maxing and relaxing in Johnny's game room here
At the Baxter
at
Building.
the Baxter Building,
yep.
Studio F. There's not even any noise from the rocket silo, and the negative zone right now is pretty quiet. So an island,
I think he's done.
I hope so,
he must
yeah.
be done taking a dump, and we just love it. So it's a lot better than Reed's lab.
Yeah, which was okay, but
Yeah,
it
Reed's
just...
lab was good, but
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad Johnny's letting us use the game room.
Yeah. I mean, it has its own mystique and
Yes.
its own wonderful bits, but, couches and comfy chairs are hard to beat.
That's
Yes. So that puts the pressure on Robert now to up his studio game.
Yes.
At Studio R, and
He's already contemplating, I believe.
figure out how to do that. He's got a big empty space in the basement now,
Sort of.
sort of.
Yeah, a treadmill got put down in that space. A small one. The one I picked
Well,
up from...
That's disappointing.
Yeah. Well, it's been used, so
There
it's
you
not
go.
like it's,
Yeah, but it's still a very
So
good
many never
possible.
are, yes.
Yeah.
Because hey, some good chairs doesn't take up a lot of room.
True.
You need good chairs and a table to put the mic and a place to put the bourbon,
That's right,
which
yeah.
needs to feature prominently. And there you go. We're off and running.
Yeah, something,
That's right.
Something comfy on the os. It helps.
That's right. That's right.
So, Otterites, this episode, this Hoopajoob, we decided to do people we have met, famous people we have met or would like to meet,
Or miss the opportunity.
or miss the opportunity to meet.
That's right.
And by that, certainly people we have met has a broad definition, but for people we would like to meet, I think our definition has to be, this is somebody we want to sit down with and have a bourbon,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
or make an appearance on the show.
Well, perhaps, yeah. Wouldn't that be?
Oh,
would
no.
not be
Yeah.
nice.
That
yeah.
would be kicking it up a notch.
That's right. That's right.
So as captain, I think I'll start off. I do have one good story, or one good story about meeting people, but I've met a few others that are interesting. I got to meet baseball pitcher Curt Schilling.
Okay.
Oh, very
This
nice.
was many, many, many years ago.
Pre-bloody sock or post?
Pre-bloody sock.
Okay.
When he still pitched for Philadelphia.
Oh, wow.
So if you know Curt Schilling's career, he went from Philadelphia to Arizona,
Mm-hmm.
and then to Boston.
To Boston, yes.
Yeah.
and did win a World Series in Arizona.
Yes.
And then, of course, the bloody sock and getting Boston to their first World Series since the curse of the Bambino.
Yes, which unfortunately many of us who are not Boston fans wish that curse had never been broken because, Boston fans have become worse than Yankees fans now that they think their team is hot doo-doo. So, just saying that. If you're a Boston fan, no offense to you, but just, come on, people. It's like Kentucky fans.
Oh, careful now.
Yeah, I know.
No.
They just go a little overboard, is all I'm saying.
Watch, yeah. So, but this was many, many years ago. A fellow that I worked with was into, I forget what these type of games are called, but they were basically strategy games. He was into Axis and Allies.
Oh, yeah.
And apparently had been playing Axis and Allies through some sort of correspondence with Kurt Schilling.
Wow.
Really? This was a board game, wasn't it?
It was a board game, but I'm assuming back then that this was probably being played over a computer bulletin board.
Right, yeah,
in
exactly.
some fashion.
Right,
so,
yeah.
GD or CompuServe or something, I don't recall the exact specifics. But Schilling really dug strategy games.
Interesting. And
so, Philadelphia was pitching in Cincinnati, and we got invited to go to a game in Reds Phillies and meet Schilling later. And of course, we had a lot of beer, and Schilling, played Axis and Allies with my friend, and it was pretty cool.
That's awesome.
It was not like we became bestest buddies or anything, but it was pretty neat. And
with those kind of things, that's a great example of, though. I mean, you must have got a decent sense of the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was after the game, it was in a low key situation where he was just relaxing, so he wouldn't have been putting on any kind of public face.
Yeah, very regular guy.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
So now there's one you guys share that I'm going to put you on the spot about that I did not get to meet.
You
have to tell the story of meeting Charlton Heston briefly during his book tour.
Yeah, for In the Arena, which I don't remember what year that was. That was in the 90s, I think.
It was in the 90s, yeah.
It would have been probably 95 or 96, no later probably than 96.
Yeah, that's about what I was thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
They had a
meeting
beloved
Schilling would have been like 90 or 91.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right.
That's early in his career.
Yes. Again, Philly was pretty good at that time, and I think it was about the time Mitch Williams, Wild Thing, played for them. The closer that they had.
Yeah. When we met Charlton Heston, he was on his book tour for In the Arena, which had just been put out. It was a beautiful hardcover that he would sign, which was kind of a thing they didn't do much for somebody his big name.
Right.
He didn't do that, and we had a wonderful local bookstore chain with group. I guess there were two of them, two of the Holly Cook booksellers. Loved that place.
Yeah,
loved that place.
Everybody misses Holly Cook.
It was just a fantastic one. They had two locations, one on Barstown Road, one over here on Shelbyville Road. And that's the one we went to at Shelbyville Road. And it was a line. It was an enormous line that we went to. And I still remember, Robert, we're in the line. We're talking about it because we're standing together as people are getting, they're lined out in the parking lot. Because it was very programmed. You go in with your book, and you go in the line. Charlton Heston signs the book, he shakes your hand, and you move on. You don't get to talk to him. But, you can smile at him, you can say, hi, it's bad, that sort of thing. But that's because they want to accommodate everybody. I get that.
Right. They don't want somebody monopolizing the man's time.
And, we come out of here afterwards because we know you're not there. Because you're somewhere, you're out of town. I don't even remember where you were. I don't know if you remember. But we came outwards, and Robert turns on the snark and says, we should go get T-shirts saying, we shaked the hands of Moses, and Martin didn't.
Yeah, I was out of town for work.
Yep.
And as I believe we related on the show, Mrs. Martin got to sub for me, so she got to see Moses.
And got you the book.
Yeah, got the book, so I did have one.
Because you can only get one book per person.
That's right.
Yeah.
One book
Yeah,
signed
I mean,
per person.
even
signed.
Even your sisters, I believe.
My sister was there. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. She's. I'm pretty sure she's got a copy. I read the book.
Oh,
I did read it. It's a great book.
phenomenal book.
Phenomenal book. The man, he wrote it himself because when he was in town that day, he did a radio spot, advertising what he was doing. And that was one of the questions, do you have a ghostwriter? He goes, well, actually, no. I mean, I did write this myself, which is an unusual thing for many high-profile authors. But his voice comes through in that book so
It does.
Yes.
So well.
It's so authentic.
Yeah. And he wasn't making many movies at this point.
No.
This would have been about the time of the True Lies, the brief appearance in True Lies.
And he wasn't even credited in that.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I think
he's doing what he wants.
I think the book came out right after that.
He had done some stuff with Ted Turner, his buddy.
Yeah.
He had played in the movie The Avenging Angel for TNT with Tom Berenger, who's another Ted Turner buddy that did that. And he played Smith from the Mormons. Mm-hmm. And he also, right around that time, played Long John Silver in Treasure Island for TNT. So he was kind of just doing that. He's Charlton Heston. He can play these roles whatever he wants to.
Well, he got to appear under the direction of his son in some of these, right?
Well, in The Man for All Seasons, which that was in '88. That was the first TNT made for TNT.
But I mean, that's kind of where he was.
That's right. He can do whatever he wants to.
Career, he's like, well, you know what I want to do? I want to be in something that my son directs.
Some of that, it was part of that. And some of it was, who doesn't want to play Long John Silver? I mean, that's a great place to play. And
one of the things I loved about the True Lies appearance was, what struck me about that was, he's in there with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who are you going to get to be the boss who's going to browbeat Arnold Schwarzenegger?
That's right. And that's
Charlton Heston.
And that's right. And that's one of the reasons there's a story I think he tells in the book that he wrote this saying, that's the reason he was hired is you got to have somebody that can intimidate Arnold Schwarzenegger. Who can you get? And he did.
Yeah. I mean, even I don't think Gene Hackman could have pulled that off.
No.
Only Chuck.
Yeah, Chuck did a fantastic job with that. Yes, we shook the hand of Moses, and Martin didn't.
Yeah. So, I do have two more.
Go ahead.
So these are very important to me because it's summer of 2013 when my dad passes.
Right.
So in March, got to meet R. Lee Ermey.
Oh yes.
Gunnery Sergeant Hartman, or Gunny, as he's called, and that was at the opening of the Cabela's here in town.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And so he's very nice, and
I've heard he was a class act. He really is a nice guy.
He really appreciated fans.
Yeah, because he's played that role. That type of role, he's played that ever since then. Of course, he had his own reality show there for a while, which was pretty nice.
He did Mail Call.
That's it. That's
with the show on the History Channel and did stuff. And he kind of played that gunnery sergeant drill instructor persona but he did appear in a lot of other films as well,
of course,
including comedies and all kinds of things. Even the Rough Riders.
That's right. TNT again.
Yeah, brief appearance in that. But he was very nice, and of course, Dad didn't have a ton of stamina at that time, very ill. But, he posed for pictures with us and shook hands, and we didn't have to really stand in line and wait for all the other people to go through.
That's nice. Yeah.
So, and then later that same summer, I got to meet Adam Baldwin.
Oh, yeah.
Again,
yes.
So you're talking Animal Mother from Full Metal Jacket, and what is it? My Bodyguard. It's his other famous kind of role when he was younger.
He's done quite a few things. Of course,
and then Firefly. He was at this was at a Comic-Con type.
Oh, okay.
Deal
all right. So you're talking about. All right. You're talking about. This was when he played Jane.
Yeah. So that's what leads to his appearance. It's a Firefly thing. So he's signing autographs and all that kind of stuff.
Don't forget his appearance in Chuck.
I was going to say, which was
Chuck.
Really
it was about the same time as Chuck as well. So that's why he's at the Comic-Con. Of course, again, all the brown coats were there.
Yeah.
But he signed autographs. So both he and R. Lee Ermey signed my copy of Full Metal Jacket. So I think I have a really, really unique personal possession, and then I have a copy of Full Metal Jacket on DVD with Adam Baldwin and R. Lee Ermey signatures.
That sounds pretty good. I do have one. Now that I've thought of one, and you were there, you remember this. It is usually not a wise thing to anger a Klingon. But we managed, almost. That was my dear, lovely wife. We went and met Michael Dorn in Cincinnati. And I know you were there because you're probably standing behind us. And we were in...
I'm sure it was. It was not in Cincinnati. It was in
Northern Kentucky.
Kentucky.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. And I'm sure you were there with me. And the wives were there too. And we were in the autograph line. And Michael Dorn is, if you've not met him, we've seen him a couple times.
So this is at a
Star Trek convention.
Yeah,
That's right. He is the classiest guy. He is so friendly. He's funny. He does a tremendous Patrick Stewart imitation, by the way. Very good. This was.
I would love to see that.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Well, a slight aside. He would talk. This is when Patrick Stewart was doing the commercials for Pontiac, and they were still filming. The show was still on the air, or was only recently off. They were still probably making movies, and Michael Dorn talks about how Patrick Stewart came in one day and he says Patrick is such an ass, but he means this friendly. And he says, Michael, I just made another Pontiac commercial, and they paid me lots and lots of money. I'm now going to buy myself a Jaguar. And then, of course, the whole place busts out laughing, and Patrick Stewart did indeed buy a green Jaguar around that time. But anyway, we're in line to get an autograph, because he would do that. Not all the stars would do that, but he would. My wife comes up behind us as I'm getting there, and he turns just as she flips the flash.
Oh, yes.
You remember this?
Yes,
and
I remember that.
She blinds him. And it's just like, oh my God, we've just angered a Klingon. But he was so kind. And my wife said, oh, I'm so sorry. And it was just like, oh, that's okay. He laughed about it and all that. And we shook hands.
He's probably been blinded many times.
Yeah. I know, but he could have been... He could have been anything differently, because it was an obvious thing. We've done that. So that was one of that's probably as close to
Yeah. Now, on rights, obviously, we've been to a lot of cons.
Yes.
We have seen quite a few Trek people.
Oh, yes. Tons.
Marina Sirtis, I know at one time.
That was the first con I went
twice for me from Marina Sirtis.
Yeah, Kirk.
Because... This is great.
Not Kirk.
Shatner.
Shatner. We've seen Shatner.
Seen Shatner in '89, actually, the same year that Star Trek V came out, and he was doing the tour thing, complaining that it wasn't making enough money.
Right.
But
and he showed up late because his plane was running late. Whatever the issue was, it was travel related.
Right. But he was a classy guy. He really was.
The Creation Con people were not very good about it. I don't.
They were. They were kind of dickish, but he was everything that you would expect him to be in the best way.
Dorn and Stewart. I know we talked about seeing Stewart.
Stewart was kind of it was a very uncomfortable situation with him.
We've discussed that on the episodes before as well. So,
but it's always fascinating. One of my favorite, as far as listening, as far as the Trek, was John Delancey.
Oh, that's right. Because
we are Q.
We are Q. That is correct.
Oh, please tell that story. That's one we've not told in an episode.
No, I don't think we have.
And it was in Cincinnati.
This one was definitely...
and John Delancey was the headliner of the convention, and we go up for that. And I don't know who this person was. And I don't
but
know
he was brilliant for asking.
Brilliant for asking. He says, because John Delancey's character is Q in Star Trek, and he's an omnipotent being. And some person in there asked, can you make us all Q?
Well, I think he asked for him to make Q. And John Delancey said, no, let's make all of you Q.
So he takes his hands and he just waves his hands over everybody. The thing that he does as Q.
Sort of like the holy water.
That's exactly right. He does that. And he says, now you are all Q.
And I miss this one. I am not Q.
You are not Q, right. But we are.
Yes.
And
to this day, that's how we
that's how we will greet each other, as Q, because that's how the Q greet each other, as Q.
And these guys will not make me a Q.
We can't. We don't have the
We're honorary Q.
We're honorary Q. You'd have to meet John Delancey and ask him to do that.
Or Corbin Burnson.
Corbin Burnson could do this.
Or
that's right.
the chick. There's two. There's the redhead who was also Kalar.
Oh, Susie Plaxton.
Susie Plaxton.
Yes,
she could do
it. Oh, no, I love Susie
That's
Plaxton.
correct. We love Susie Plaxton. Not met her, but yes, she's a wonderful lady. From
then there's the blonde who was the half Q.
Half Q, yes, that's correct. I don't remember the actress.
Was Vash ever made a Q?
Oh, absolutely not. No, they.
Well, and then there's the whole episode on Voyager where the Q are fighting the Civil War.
There's tons of Q actors and actresses there.
Who was the actor on who wanted to commit suicide as a Q?
Yes,
his character is a great episode.
Oh, it was, but he died, so
so
he probably can't make us Q. But no.
So you actually have a good number of people you could request.
But to be honest, it needs to be John Delancey.
It should be.
So I'm very disappointed that the fellas won't make me cue as well, but they are cue, and I will say yes. This has gone on now for 30 years.
That's right. We have been omnipotent all that time.
Of calling each other Q.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we try to tell our wives that we are omnipotent, and they just roll their eyes.
Yes, because wives are not with us. Thank God the wives are not with us then.
God, could you imagine? That's right. We didn't go within that time. Oh, my Lord.
Can you imagine if our wives are made omnipotent?
They already are. Come on. We just haven't realized
they're
it
just
yet.
not Q. Yeah. So there's been lots of cons and lots of meetings.
While we're on cons, what are the not the con Noonien Singh, but the cons,
the convention.
We're on the Star Trek one. So this is one of my favorite stories that I get to tell about our Michigan friend. So we go to see Marina Sirtis like the last week before I come back to Kentucky for going back to Bellman. And so we see Marina Sirtis. We have her pictures taken with her. And, she's very, very gracious, very generous and gracious with all the people. Just lovely woman. So she's wearing this little black dress outfit, which just had all of the young men just, swooning in her presence, which they did anyway.
She is a beautiful and gracious lady, of course.
Beautiful and gracious lady. And so not a week or two later, back down here in Louisville, Creation comes to just across the... It's Louisville, but it's actually held just across the river in Indiana.
Right, yeah.
And so we go, and I take the developed picture that I have of me with Marina Sirtis and have her sign that.
Oh, that's right. I had forgotten
Oh my God.
that.
She was like, oh my gosh, where did you get this? When did this happen?
That's right.
And so it was very cool because then, got to have my picture taken with her twice, plus had that one signed.
That's right. I had forgotten
that. And she was very, very, she thought that was the greatest thing that I brought that picture to have signed.
Yeah. It's kind of cool.
She's a lovely woman. She really is.
She really was. That's exactly,
very down to earth for a big star.
I don't want to say all, but we met most.
Yeah. I'm going to say you've met a ton of Trek related.
I have not. It's easier to count the ones I've not met.
Yeah.
I did not get to meet Leonard Nimoy.
I didn't either. That's right, unfortunately. Our friend in Michigan did.
Yes.
But we did not. You met DeForest Kelley. I never did.
Right.
But we met James Doohan several times.
Yes.
Because he would make
the man sweats like a pig.
Yes.
God love him.
Yeah, he did the convention circuit quite a bit.
Don't ask him about the Klingon language.
Oh, no.
I mean, you can't now, obviously.
Right, but it was uncomfortable. And that story is kind of out there on the internet. Google it if you want to find out the details on it. He's both right and not right. It's kind of how that goes.
Yeah. But he doesn't get the credit he should get.
That is correct. That's right.
That's the main thing.
That's the thing. Just because he
Well, let's close the Star Trek portion of our show.
Really?
And just let it go without saying that we've been to a lot of cons. We've seen and met, briefly, a lot of Trek-involved people. So...
And, there's been the occasional nice interaction beyond the normal, which is...
And again, you guys stress, almost all of them just tremendously gracious. And understand they've got a tiger by the tail being involved in Trek.
Yeah, and they see thousands and thousands of people, and some of them are not as, they're just, it's almost like...
Oh, yeah, it's always uncomfortable when that person stands up and asks, well, in this episode, why didn't you do this? As if they're really that character.
Yeah.
They always handle it very graciously.
Yeah.
Well, they are professionals.
Yes, they are professionals, and, it happens all the time.
So, I'm trying to... very briefly, Jason Momoa.
You met Jason Momoa?
Pre-Conan, I think, even.
Right, which was like...
So this was 2013, same con as Adam Baldwin. My sister-in-law wanted to be in line for Momoa, so I got to see him very briefly. Now, she interacted with him, got him to sign something, etc.
Which body part did she offer to have signed?
Well, my sister-in-law has a great deal of decorum.
Oh, that's good.
So she had a stuffed octopus
and
had him sign that. So it's kind of a Kraken, sign my Kraken thing.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have to have a pause while we hilarize here because we didn't expect that one to come out.
I've got to let Robert laugh here.
That's right.
Sir, while we pause here for this laugh, and move on to the next part of the episode, would you hand me a set of Little Debbies there?
Oh, yes.
Out of the box?
You wish for a little of that, sir?
Sir, the Little Debbies that stand by your...
Stand by you there, Mr. Howard. Yes, sir.
Well, Little Debbies really do go well with bourbon.
They do.
I don't know how that happened, but
so
it did. And
I am cleaning my palate with Woodford, and even after something I didn't like, Woodford just... It holds up the world.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's tremendous. So, and Robert, you're having more Woodford also?
I am.
Francis
A
had that
little
too.
bit of basil this time.
Ah,
Yes, Basil Hayden.
Basil.
Honestly,
Alex
I'm beginning to get to the
Sitting
point where I
next to
like
me,
the
so.
basil more than the regular Woodford. I still like the double oaked best, but I think I like the basil over the regular Woodford.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite. I haven't seen anything that's rivaled it yet.
yeah.
But we've hardly had them all.
Yes,
so.
we've hardly.
So,
So yes.
all right. So let's move on to.
Yes, I really haven't given anything yet.
That's
Yeah,
right.
So I want to start with
Let the
you.
man work here.
Yes. Let the man work.
So-
Stand back.
Someone you would like to meet, and by meet, I don't want not just in the airport line,
Right.
but let's
Which I
go.
did that,
Let's amp the definition up
So yeah.
and talk somebody you want to have a Woodford with.
So I don't know if he would have had a Woodford or not, because actually the person I'm going to pick, it would have been possible because people did this sort of thing,
Yeah.
and we just never got around to it before he died. So the King, not Elvis,
Oh, I was gonna
the
say-
other King, Jack Kirby.
Jack Kirby.
Oh,
That's
Kirby,
right.
yeah.
Yes.
So he lived in Thousand Oaks, California, and he died in 1994, I think it was 94.
Sounds right. Yeah.
And he and Roz, his wife, were just the most gracious people. It was not unheard of because in the fanzines, you could find tons of stories about people who would just show up at his address
Yeah.
and say, "Does Jack Kirby live here?" And they would invite them in. Roz would make them a sandwich, and they'd talk for an hour or two. And got to see the man draw sometimes. I don't know if they. I think sometimes they actually got away with sketches, but I don't know how often that happened. But the fact that the man was willing to open his home
Yeah.
to random people who just showed up, just because they wanted to meet him,
Yeah.
and
He's
he
the
was
man.
still the most humble man. He.
I'm sure he probably couldn't believe it's like I've been drawing comics.
Well, yeah, because when
For
these
4
guys
years.
started doing comics was what you did when you couldn't get a comic strip in the newspapers.
Yeah.
And so
It's disposable all the way through
Yeah.
up into the 60s. It's disposable.
which just boggles the mind now, but it's true. So, if you were doing comics, it's almost like you failed at what you really wanted to do. Which it seems odd to us now, but, this is back when newspapers were king. And so he fell into that because he tried to get some strips published a few times, but the comic strip the comics is where he found his home, obviously.
Yeah, and he was.
And he
phenomenal.
really, Stanley nicknamed him the King, but it really is so apropos. But just the idea that this man, this creative genius, was so humble that he would literally open his home, he and his wife, just anybody who just happened to come by, was willing to spend a few hours talking with them, and then send them on their way. Thanks for showing up. It was great to meet you. You could literally have that real conversation with the man. And I'm sure the ones that came up and just gushed like fanboys probably didn't get as long a visit. But I'm sure that if you showed up with some intelligent commentary or some whatever, maybe bring him a bottle of wine or something might be a
Ask
good
about
thing.
the stylistics of his artwork.
What are the great influences? Things like that. Don't talk about Stan Lee. That was a very sore subject.
Yeah,
It was,
for the longest time.
Stan was enriched a lot, and Kirby never was to the extent
Not
that Stan was.
during his life. Now,
Right.
the family settled with Disney finally.
Yeah.
I don't think they got nearly what they should have.
No.
They were, but everybody wanted it done, and so Disney was able to get them to settle for. While it made them multimillionaires, was a pittance.
Yes, but they did get perpetual creative.
They did
credit.
they did, yes.
And that's a good thing. That's
As
a
I've
very
long
good thing.
said, especially that first Thor movie,
Oh yeah, that's Kirby.
that
That's all Kirby.
all of that design was Kirby.
Very much
Every
so.
bit of it.
Well, and it continues on because the Eternals movie that comes out later this year, that's all Kirby. Nobody gets credit for that but him.
Yep.
'Cause He
He was the
his
writer,
complete
artist,
creation
editor.
of that.
Nobody had any say in
So,
what
and
went in
that's
that book.
kind of like a fulfillment of his dream to say, these are mine, and they're getting their own movie. And those creations that I created are really, it's something.
And those are, not to get off on the Kirby thing, but that's a continuation of the themes he was working on in Thor and New Gods, and then the Eternals, and everything that he's ever done. those cosmic level themes. But he was just such a down to earth, gracious man.
Yeah.
And the stories that he could have told.
Yeah.
You know.
Kree Skrull War is his too,
No.
right?
No,
that's Roy Thomas.
Roy Thomas,
Oh,
that's
okay.
right.
But he created the Kree and the Skrull.
Yeah.
He did. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
And Roy Thomas was kind of like Stan Lee's protege that took over a lot of the writing duties when Stan moved on into more of the publisher and editor type stuff like that. And he's somebody else I'd love to meet too. Roy Thomas is like the guru of so much of what we love in comic books.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote Conan the Barbarian for decades.
Yeah.
I mean, he understood the
Now-
source material very, very well.
Now, Robert, I didn't let you relate stories about some of your other creators you've met, but
Yes.
I know you met Byrne, John Byrne.
Yes, I met and talked to John Byrne a few times, a couple of different cons, and got several things signed. And talked with
he's
him.
a pivotal late 70s especially, but
Late 70s and 80s.
That's
yeah.
right.
creator at Marvel.
Well, I've got one of his signed Fantastic Four annuals in there on the shelf that you brought
Right,
back.
that I brought back, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
of course,
Fantastic
I'm looking at the
Four.
Fantastic Four poster, which I have a duplicate of,
Yep.
that is on the wall there, which is from the cover of Fantastic Four 252.
Oh, yeah.
Sideways comic. Hadn't been done before. Or if it had, it was like a one-time thing. It was not a thing. So instead of flipping the pages left to right, you flip them up.
Yep.
Yeah, it was
So
an
X-Men
experiment.
also, he was
X-Men, Fantastic Four,
massively
Superman.
influential with X-Men.
Yeah, that's one of his big rise to prominence.
Yeah, that's the one that
put
really
him
catapulted
as-
him to fame.
Yeah.
He was also he's also an interesting guy. He's very opinionated, but not in a like in your face kind of way. But he's very he's got strong opinions.
Yeah.
He does not suffer fools gladly in this sense. Like if you come up and you want to gush over him doing the fanboy thing, he will brush you off. It's like, yeah, very nice to meet you. Now next, because he has no interest in that. That it makes him uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I did when I talked to him was, I think you're one of the best creators, and he started to brush me off. I was like, no, this is why, and I laid out my reasons, and I got more FaceTime with him because I had a genuine compliment that was well thought out.
Yeah.
So he gave me for free a copy of 2112, which was a graphic novel based on his Next Men material,
Right.
that you couldn't get anywhere. So he autographed that. It's like he was giving that away if you asked about it or whatever. So I managed to snag a copy of that. But yeah, I enjoyed meeting him the most because he is still my favorite modern comic artist.
He's super tremendous.
Just a phenomenal creator.
His stuff still holds up very, very well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I've met a lot of comic creators, especially recently.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time talking to some of the older guys. Shelley Moldoff, who met at the same time met Byrne. This is Motor City Comic Con in Detroit. Actually, it was in Novi. He's one of the guys who did covers and art in the 40s and 50s for DC.
Yeah.
And he was selling recreations. There's still more money than I could afford at the time. There was a guy, Alan Bellman, who died recently, who was who's been at the Louisville stuff. And he's a fascinating guy. He's just got one of those guys who has stories. And these older guys, they're great because there's not a whole lot of line, which is unfortunate. But they're willing to tell stories and talk about the comics when they're first being done and how it was all done.
And they're becoming fewer and fewer all the time.
Oh yeah,
yeah. There's very few of those golden age guys around at all. I mean, it's just even the Silver Age guys are hard to find.
Right. Carmine Infantino, he's gone. Gil Kane is gone. It's just some of the early Silver Age guys just are not around.
And some of those
Steve Ditko's gone.
Oh, absolutely. You see, he's.
Yeah, he's one that would have been awesome to meet.
If you could get to him. He does.
Yeah, he was a recluse.
Now, Stan Lee was at the same con that I've been talking about.
Right.
So I do have some pictures. I can't say I've met him. But
yeah, that same
was
con, I think it was the same cons where I met Neil Adams. And you refused to go up and talk to him.
I was.
You were starstruck.
I was starstruck. That's correct.
And I couldn't believe you would not go up and talk to him.
I've admired Neil Adams' work since the 70s when I was a teeny weeny little guy. I remember his work on Green Lantern, Green Arrow.
Yeah.
Right before Mike Grell took it over a little bit few years later, and it was like Mike Grell's somebody else that I have wanted to meet, and I know you've met him recently.
Yes.
I've watched bought everything the man ever did. And I'm just starstruck. I don't know what I would say. I would be one of those fanboys that would gush, and I would embarrass myself and him. And
A very Chris Farley. Remember when you did that? That was cool.
that's
Yeah.
where I would
Now,
have gone.
I missed, and I didn't put two and two together at the time at this con, but Michael Rooker was there.
Oh, yes.
And this was at the time when he was doing Walking Dead with Merle.
Yeah, which was a big role for him.
A big role. And so, but it's pre-Guardians.
Right.
So,
Right.
Of course, he's on the con circuit a lot now with Guardians.
Very much so, yeah.
And, but, I mean, I didn't put two and two together that this was also McMaster's.
That's right, from
Tombstone.
That's
Or I
right.
would have, gotten in his line. But apparently the story became, he and Jason Momoa became fast buddies here in town.
Oh, really?
And drank the town dry.
Well,
that
Jason
weekend.
Momoa has that reputation. He's a
Wow.
hard drinker and a hard partier.
And
Nobody keeps
partied,
up with him.
They partied their butts off apparently on
Yeah.
to drink Louisville Dry is hard because you got a lot of bourbon in this
That's
town.
exactly
A lot
right.
of places. I mean, you got distilleries
but
and
apparently
it is
that
all
was-
over the place.
That was the story that
Yes.
they partied hard. So that's good stuff. So, but Francis, somebody you would like to meet and can muster up, hey, you want to have a bourbon with us?
Oh, well, folks that are living now, and I'll go back to our last episode, Bernard Cornwell has got to be the guy.
Yeah.
I've read I've read all his stuff. I'm always following him on his website. He's very interactive with
So
that.
let me ask you this:
Yeah.
so since you have a past history of choking,
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
and I'm not going to excoriate you. I have frozen before and missed my chances before.
Yeah.
Well.
So
I
you got
Edward
that,
James Olmos in Tennessee,
Yeah.
and I couldn't bring myself the courage to go talk to him.
and you admitted that you would have fanboy gushed over
Yeah.
who was it you said just a minute ago?
Oh, it was Neil Adams.
Oh, Neil Adams. Yeah.
That's right.
So what would you ask Bernard Cornwell that would not be fanboy gushing? Because you
I
could
don't know.
easily move into that.
I don't know that I could. Because I haven't read every single one of his books. I'm still working through those, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to say that maybe he's already done that?
Well, I guarantee you there's almost no question that we could ask any famous person we would like to meet that they have not already
They
asked.
have not already heard. Yeah, I know.
I think you got to just start with Mr. Cornwell. Can I buy you a bourbon?
That's exactly right. Yeah, I would do that, and
I'm
I
a
would
huge
say
fan of your work. I got tons of it on my show.
and I would probably stick with the sharp stuff.
Yeah.
I like that. I mean, I love the Saxon stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I love the sharp stuff. It was one of my. I still love it, and I know he's been to a lot of these places. I'd probably talk about if I had the time. We're sitting and actually having a bourbon. I would probably talk about those first three Sharps books he did in India. I still love that initial trilogy. He wrote it many years later, but it was like the prequel to a lot of stuff. And I'm thinking, this was just so
And
good.
still, without making it be... Remember that time when you wrote the Sharps book in India?
Well,
Those are really cool, weren't
That's
they?
right. I don't know I could do it. I don't know that I could. That's why this is never going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Hey, you never know. Hey.
I would love to sit down and talk with a couple people. Actually, would mind talking with them both at the same time. Because I've seen a video interview where they're basically interviewing each other. And that's Stephen King and
no, sir.
The guy who did Game of Thrones.
George R. R. Martin.
R. Martin, yes.
A King Martin debate.
Well, that wasn't a debate. They're buddies.
Well, yeah, because they're both enormously successful fiction authors.
Yeah.
I mean,
and King was just ribbing him like crazy.
I just say King would definitely give him a hard time for like, hey, we've been waiting 10 years for that book. I can write 15 novels in that amount of time.
Right.
But yeah,
hell, I've written a novel while we've been sitting here.
And that's kind of and I remember hearing about that. That's kind of where that went. It's
did.
like he was, Stephen King's one of the few guys that could get away with that because, he's done the crap.
But, he's done a lot of talks. And which you can get on YouTube, which I've watched them, and they're just fascinating. He's one of those guys that he's willing to actually talk to his. And when he writes to his readers too, he calls them constant reader, which is nice. He's got a way to address his readership, and addresses them through that. But in these talks, he's very good about being open and honest. Mm-hmm. Somebody asked him once, what about do you take notes? And he made the comment, a writer takes notes is I forget how he put it, but it was basically what hacks do or something like that. It was
Right, exactly.
It was the last resource of the uncreative or something like that.
And that's been a rather famous quote of his. You're right.
Yeah. And, of course, the whole place erupted because that is funny. Because you don't expect that. He's done so much that has been influential on my desire to write. So he would be one that I think would be fascinating.
I would agree. He's you could say he might be the most Stephen King might be the most successful fiction author alive today.
Oh,
perhaps in any time of our lifetime.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about book sales over his career, probably more than J.K. Rowling. I don't know if he's made more than J.K. Rowling because the merchandising off Harry Potter movies is going to beat out just about any of his movies, unfortunately.
It is, but see,
but I think he's a much more successful writer.
Yeah, see, but it's the craft. He's still writing.
And he's better and better.
And better and better. He's still being creative. He's written, dozens upon hundreds of books that he still keeps writing. He is a master craftsman, and as we know,
well, he's one of the few where one of his novels has not just been adapted to film once, but twice.
Yes.
I mean, that's pretty rare. Thomas Harris and him, and then back in history,
Ian Fleming.
Yeah. Or a Mary Shelley, Bram Stoker. I mean, it's just rare.
Actually, I don't think Ian Fleming ever had any of his done twice.
Yeah, it wasn't Casino Royale done twice?
Adapted twice.
Well, 3 if you count the TV one.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I suppose.
So
the first 2 I don't count. Right.
So they were licensed and adapted. That counts.
Fine.
So I'll take another turn here because obviously we have one big elephant, so to speak.
Yes, I can't believe you didn't start with him.
Yeah, it's P.J. O'Rourke. So moving from people we have
heard back. Obviously, we've not heard back.
No, we've not heard. There's no return email from his publisher. So we may have to try a different tactic. But again, PJ is the guy I would love to meet, and I do have something I want to ask him that wouldn't be fanboyish, because I want to ask him, after asking him if he wants to have a bourbon, I want to ask him about Doug Kenney. Now, Doug Kenney is the guy that he worked with at National Lampoon, who went on to write Animal House and produce Caddyshack.
Yeah.
So we've talked about Doug Kenney in a blog post I did.
Right.
He's, again...
Well, he's on our list of potential our heroes, people you should know. Our heroes
type people you should know. If you've laughed at a gross-out comedy, you need to know Doug Kenney. The National Lampoon was his idea. He came from Harvard and decided, hey, they got this Harvard Lampoon. We could do this nationally. And in the early 70s, the idea being nobody's off limits.
Right.
Nixon's an easy target, but let's go after everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And so as Doug Kenney moves then out of it and becomes more of a Hollywood person, Caddyshack initially did not do quite as well box office as Animal House.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Kenney was an addict.
Mm. Yeah.
Sadly, you're talking 1978, who wasn't a California cocaine addict, but...
pretty much.
Of course, he's close friends with Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase takes him to Hawaii. Kind of, that was that was rehab then.
Right.
You want to get off cocaine? Well, let's just go hang out in Hawaii for a while. At least you're not in L.A.
Yeah.
Chase has to come back to start a film, I think, and they get word that Kenny's missing. And they find him at the bottom of a ravine several days later, and the joke becomes, nobody knows what really happened. Did he fall? Did he jump? But the joke becomes, Doug fell looking for a higher place to jump from. But that's that's in the spirit of the Lampoon, the people that worked with him. So I would love to start off asking P.J. O'Rourke about his relationship with Doug Kenney, because they worked together on...
Maybe you don't lead with him, because I don't know, most people are going to want to come and be on the show if you want them to talk about somebody else.
Well, say, are you comfortable, P.J.? Can we pour you a bourbon? We love your stuff. Yeah. Can we ask you about Doug Kenney? because I think it's a fascinating story. They worked together on what was called the National Lampoon High School Yearbook parody, which was based a lot on O'Rourke's high school, DeVilbiss High School in Toledo, Ohio.
Oh.
And, it becomes this parody of these 8 archetypes in high school, the jocks and the nerds and all this. And it's the launching point for Animal House, what becomes Animal House. It gets transmuted to college, other writers come in.
Right.
Other Lampoon writers. The story about Pinto, the one character in Animal House, that's all from Chris Miller, who's a Dartmouth college grad. So, but PJ's obviously the guy, and I think I could muster up enough courage to at least get the conversation started with that, and then we can move into, other stuff about, well, what was Nicaragua really like?
Read the book is probably what you'd say.
Yes. Well, read the book. But, Otterites, that I have a ton of PJ on my shelf. Mm-hmm. I have a whole PJ shelf. Nobody else is on that shelf.
Yeah, that's the one thing about when we talk about this kind of... Because we've talked about doing this episode for a while.
Yes.
Right. And it's how do you meet these people without coming off like an idiot?
Well, yeah. For people like me, it's not possible.
Well, I don't think you give yourself enough credit.
Yeah.
You do get really starstruck, but you could do it.
Yeah, I suppose.
I mean, probably the higher level stuff. I mean, like Neil Adams, he is royalty.
Yeah.
I mean, he's
been doing great work since the late '60s.
Yeah. Now, I also at a more recent con met and talked with Jim Shooter. Now,
I remember you talked about him.
He would have been considered royalty.
Yes.
But he fell from favor at Marvel and got kicked out, and he's bounced around doing various things. But he was very gracious. We talked.
Yeah.
I asked questions. I don't remember what I asked, but he offered up all kinds of different stories. A lot of for him, I didn't have to ask a whole lot of questions.
Really, he just talked. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have met him because I'm reading the comics at that time. There are several questions I'd love to know. Why in the world did you let them do this, or
why did you make them kill Phoenix? Because that was all him.
Yeah, well, and that story is well known. That would be far more.
But he started something
obscure. Yeah, that's right.
Unintentionally, he started that cycle of death and rebirth for that particular character.
Right.
Unfortunately.
And it's Phoenix. It kind of works.
It does, but still. For some of them, they just like to talk about the work.
Yeah.
Jim Starlin was like that. So was Bob McLeod.
Starlin is somebody I would love to meet. I mean, I loved his Dreadstar. Thanks to you, because I would have never.
Well, there's a latest volume.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
that's right.
Which I ordered. He told me that was coming out. Remember, that's how I found out about it. It's like
there you go.
So that's how I found out
about
it. From the man himself.
So, yes, I would like to correct my mistake of not meeting Michael Rooker.
Yes.
But here's what's striking me as I think about this episode as we've been talking about it. Otterites, what names are missing here? We've not mentioned a single musician.
Oh,
we haven't, have we? That's right.
No. So as you can imagine, no, we've never been backstage at a rock concert.
Nope.
But
and I mean, I'm a rock and roll guy. I love a lot of these bands. It's just not a pull for me to say, well, I got to meet Ozzy. I mean, yeah, that would be awesome.
Sure,
meeting Tony Iommi would be awesome.
Yeah, love to meet Robert
Susie.
Smith.
Robert Smith, yeah.
Hang out with the Furs.
Stevie Nicks.
Oh, but that's correct.
He'd be a dribbling fool.
I would. That's correct. That's right. I'm just watching them. I mean, I've seen her on stage several times, and I probably dribble there. I mean, it's just kind of the way it is. But
rock and roll stars we haven't mentioned really.
But those don't have. Most of them don't have a reputation of being approachable in the same sense.
And the other connection too is all of these people we're talking about are stimulating as far as their creativity.
Yeah.
So we're talking about authors and artists.
Well,
so
I listen to a lot of that music while I write.
Yeah.
So,
but it just does. It's not.
It doesn't speak to us in the same way.
Right. Exactly.
You're interesting because some of those
stimulation.
musicians are powerful creative forces.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Stevie Nicks is a great
I
example.
think Bono's one I would probably want to meet.
Absolutely. Don Henley. I mean, for God's sake, some of these folks have sold gazillions of records because they're good. They're
Maybe
very
Sting,
good.
but you know.
Yeah, Sting. Yeah, hey, I love the man. He's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I gotta say, you know, listeners, when you finally get to read Francis's novel, there is a police reference in it, and it's very subtle.
Yes, that's true.
And I love it. Did you catch it?
No, I did not.
Oh, you
Oh,
did?
I'll have to show it to you because I love it. I
Yes,
love it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. But again, that's the tie that ties this together. We're not talking about the people who are popular right now. None of us has mentioned Nicki Minaj or anything like that. These people who
We
are
haven't mentioned political figures.
yeah,
We
they're
haven't,
in
yeah.
the news right now.
The Kardashians are not on the list.
No.
We're talking about authors, creative people who stimulate us. A journalist in PJ.
But he makes you think.
That's
with his
who we
books.
want to. Yeah, I mean that's who we want to meet.
Yes.
And I would venture that's probably an unusual proposition.
Active creativity be prized that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As
yeah.
opposed to passive creativity.
I would venture to guess
Kardashians.
that most people would, you'd have actors and actresses, musicians.
Yeah. I mean, how many people would like to meet Robert Pattinson? A lot.
Probably.
A lot.
And none of us would.
No.
I mean,
yeah,
I would,
sure,
I would be
fine.
gracious
If-
to him.
If I tripped across him, like, oh, you're Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, sure, but I'd love to meet practically anybody who was in one of the Marvel movies. Yeah, sure, just because that would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
But they're not high on my list.
No.
Some of them I would stand from afar and truly admire.
Yeah.
Of course,
But-
depending on who it is, my wife was probably standing next to me watching somebody else. But
Yeah. But top of the list is O'Rourke, Cornwell, King.
yeah, I'm not. I got a lot. That he probably would be, although Kirby probably is the top of the list, but I can't meet him now.
That's right. We're talking
But yeah,
about those
but of
again.
ones that I would want to meet, probably King.
Yeah. People
I'm not entirely sure what I would want to discuss. Although I might say, why'd you do this at the end of the Gunslinger? Because honestly, that really pissed me off. Because it was kind of a reset.
He's got an answer for that, I'm sure. 'Cause
Oh, I'm sure he does.
And that's kind of cool to have him. I would love to be able to answer some question that nobody else is asking them. Where
Yeah, that's hard.
That's hard. That's correct. It could be
Because, for the most part, if somebody's asked it, it's probably an interesting question. Now,
That's right.
every once in a while, he'll probably come across, oh, hardly anybody ever asks me that. But, but then somebody's going to ask it the next time. He goes, oh, well, now everybody's going to ask me that one. Now that I've said that. But, I find him interesting because of the craft.
That's right.
And the story. Now, him, I wouldn't be able to ask to have a bourbon. Because I don't think he drinks anymore.
Because
But
he had some
we have dinner.
abuse issues
Yes, he
in
had
the
some
70s.
serious issues, yes.
Yeah, and so he doesn't do that.
There were several books he wrote totally drunk, as I understand it.
Some of the Richard Bachman books, I think, were
Yeah,
when he was.
I think so.
I totally respect the sobriety.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So,
Go for
as
it.
much as we love to talk about bourbon, we are casual social drinkers.
Yes,
we
we
do
are.
not drink bourbon unless we're with somebody else. Or unless I have one at home on rare occasions. Just I feel like having a
But generally, you guys have to be there.
yeah.
That's kind of the
Have
way this
bourbon
works
anyway.
out. That's
Yeah.
you're right. I don't
I mean,
drink it unless we're
if I'm going to have an alcoholic beverage at home, it's most likely it's going to be a beer, and that's still very rare.
Yeah.
So yeah, we are not raging alcoholics, even though we talk like one.
Yeah, that's, mowing the grass and having a beer afterwards is kind of cool.
Yes,
Okay, I
yes, yes, very much.
So, gentlemen, anybody else? Is there anybody else we can think of right now that we've got to do? And
there are probably some political figures. I mean, obviously, we should say, well, gee, I'd like to meet the Pope.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Actually, I would love to have a theological discussion on anything with Pope Emeritus Benedict.
That's correct. That's right. Yes, he would be a fantastic person to have that discussion.
If he's not made a doctor of the church, I think it would be a shame. I think he's that level of intellect.
totally all over that one.
Yeah, I totally see that. I totally see
But
that.
of course, any of the popes, even Alexander VI, I'd like to meet him and say, "What the hell are you doing? You're the frickin' Pope. Act like it."
That's right.
Because he's the one really, really bad Pope.
That's right. The Medici, and been dead for several hundred years. So
they're having the babies and stuff. Yes.
Just horribly. But he was so busy debauching the place that he didn't do anything doctrinally wrong.
Yeah, which has been a big discussion every time evil popes come up. That's the answer is, well, they didn't mess anything up because the Holy Spirit wouldn't let them.
Yeah. How about Doc Holliday?
Oh, love the man. Absolutely would
Yeah,
love the man.
that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Wyatt Earp.
Yeah, Wyatt Earp.
Well,
yeah.
we're going to talk about both those guys in the future, too. So we got
So, there's plenty of historical figures.
Well, Thomas More, I've often thought of myself.
Oh, yes.
I've often
Aquinas.
thought, if he were to come forward in time and hang out with me for a day or two, what would he see? And what would he say? Holy mackerel, what are you doing with this stuff? Other than
I feel like I'd have to be apologizing all the time for everything we've
You're correct.
Yeah.
Once you get over the whole culture technological schlock and realize, well, we're not that great at times. We've come a long way, baby, some ways, but other ways not so much. And that's where this conversation would start.
Yeah.
He'd have to appreciate, though, that he'd have a general degree of safety now that he would not have had.
Oh, yes.
Well, that's correct. That's right, yeah. And that I'm sure I would love to hear his perspective.
Yes.
That's what I'd like to hear. Is
How about Marcus Aurelius?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Again, stimulating. These are guys that are all...
Well, Hemingway. If we couldn't keep up with him, I'm sure, on the drinking part.
No.
But again, focus on. I'll kick you guys around here. Current that might be possible.
Current that might be possible. Wow.
Give me somebody. You can't always just be historical figures.
No.
I mean, you got to have another author besides Cornwell you would love to meet.
Oh well. Yeah, well, sure. Connie Eagleton is one guy that I'd love to sit down. He's done the quadrilogy on the War of the Roses, but he's done stuff on Genghis Khan, and he's done stuff on several other things. I'd love to sit and talk with him, and hear a lot of the great stuff that he's done.
Oh, I got two.
Okay.
Of course, my current kind of favorite authors: Tom Holland.
Yeah,
Not the kid that plays Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But the English historical writer, Tom Holland.
Right.
Who is active on Twitter.
Right.
He's interesting. He's very involved in historical preservation in Britain right now. Because there's a threat to Stonehenge that he's about. And cricket. So you can always ask him about cricket. He's a huge cricket fan.
Really?
And participant. Apparently in some kind of team.
I do know who I want to talk. Would want to meet.
Who?
Joe Straczynski.
Oh, yeah.
That's the guy I would want to meet.
Oh, Jay Michael.
He's the guy, because, my Lord, if I could sit and get drunk with him and let him talk, the man is just a genius. He's a comic writing, but Babylon 5 would be what we'd talk about, and I would love it.
Yeah, he's definitely a great creator.
Yeah.
Straczynski, cool. Tom Holland. I've interacted briefly on Twitter with Richard Brookhiser, who's also a biographer. I just finished his...
that's the interesting thing. On Twitter, Facebook, you can interact with a lot of famous people.
Oh, yeah. And they will reply. I mean, I said, hey, I just finished Gouverneur Morris, which is not a new book. I mean, he wrote it several years ago. And he said, well, thanks. There's more coming. Pay attention because more is coming.
Yeah.
So...
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if there's any other writers that come to mind off the top of my head, but probably some comic artists that I would love to just meet and hang out with, see them draw, just get tips from whatever, or just talk about the stories they've done. George Perez.
I was going to say that would be the first
one.
love
Perez.
Yeah.
That was
Walt Simonson.
Bob Layton.
Bob Layton, yes.
He's very active on Instagram.
Yeah, Bob Layton and Terry Austin both are, I think Austin is from Michigan, but I'm pretty sure Layton is.
Yeah.
So is Jim Starlin from the Detroit area, so that's kind of nice.
Yep.
Those are guys that would be awesome that are still around that just love their stuff. Michael Golden.
Oh yes, that's right.
He's a great artist. I was about to say Marshall Rogers, but I think he's passed.
I didn't know that. I was going to ask that same question.
I think he has, but I'm not sure.
Well, yeah,
I have to double check.
Gene Colan would have been somebody I would have loved to have met too, but he's passed too. He did some great stuff.
Sports figures? Any sports figures?
Barry Sanders.
Yeah.
Barry Sanders.
From the sound of it, Aaron Rodgers is a particularly engaging fellow.
Really, because he would be last on my list.
Yes, a Packer, but and I think he's not as approachable as some other players. But I mean, obviously, he's just off a stint on Jeopardy as the host.
Mm-hmm.
So He's supposed to be quite intellectual and very interesting. I think it would be very interesting to meet Mayim Bialik.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think. I mean, this lady is intellectual in space.
Yeah, I mean, she's a real.
She can hold a conversation both intellectually and hilarity. That's not a word. But,
the show they did that was set here in Louisville, it was okay, not that great.
My wife likes it.
Really?
It's
it was okay. I thought
it's
renewed.
It got renewed. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's right. It's good. It's
but
good
yeah,
show.
there she is currently starring in a film, in a television show.
Call Me Cat.
Call Me Cat.
Call Me Cat. That's right.
Yes, because she runs a
cat cafe,
and it is set here in Louisville.
Yeah, and they get that stuff right.
Yeah,
the details right, which that's a little good research for.
Yes, I mean it isn't filmed here.
No,
of course, but it is set here,
yeah.
And I think the story is one of the producers is from here and is kind of feeding the correct things into the show.
We'll take it.
But she strikes me as very interesting person to meet. So
yeah.
Wow,
I can't believe we've gone an hour. I thought we'd
I was trying to cut it short, and then we kept going. It was good stuff.
Yeah, well, we all did it. I'd pick it up, then Francis, and then you'd pick it up after trying to stop us.
But it's kind of like Al Pacino, just when I try to get it out, they pull me back in.
Yeah, it was my responsibility as captain, and I kept trying to keep everything moving and wind it up, but let's
But I think we can wind it up here. But that was pretty good. It was fun talking about all the people we have met, would like to meet,
and why.
That's right.
Yeah, the why is important because the why is always important.
It's even for gushing fanboys like me.
Yeah, because it isn't just that they're incredibly beautiful, but there would have to be something else to it. So, Francis, buddy, what is next time?
Oh, we're going back to history next time. And some serious stuff. I mean, this month we did the one on the Holocaust, very serious. We're going to kind of play that forward a little bit. Next time, we're going to talk about the whole judgment at Nuremberg.
Mm-hmm. Ah, yes.
This is going to be very interesting because this is kind of the emotional cleanse that we need after all that. Thinking, was justice done?
Yeah.
Because it had never been done like this before, folks. And
nobody ever heard of crimes against humanity.
That's exactly right. We're going to talk a lot about that and all that went into that and how that legacy is paid forward to us even today next time.
Hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes published every Friday at noon Eastern.
Spread the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And leave us a comment or review because that helps others find us.
We're on Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com.
I'm Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis. Join us next week, same snake time, same otter channel.